Disruptors and curious minds, welcome to the show. What you're about to hear is not fake news. It is not AI generated. It is a memorandum published by the White House, signed by Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of War, issued by the Department of War on January the 9th, 2026. The memo is called Artificial Intelligence Strategy for the Department of War, Accelerating America's Military AI Dominance. And we're reading this because 6 weeks after it was signed, the US is at war with Iran and AI is identifying targets. And buried somewhere in the bureaucratic, grandiose, chest-beating language of this memorandum is a very serious conversation about who controls AI. And does AI make war more likely or less likely? The memo opens, President Trump makes clear in Executive Order 14179, it is the policy of the United States to sustain and enhance America's global artificial intelligence dominance in order to promote human flourishing, economic competitiveness, and national security. And then AI-enabled warfare and AI-enabled capability development will redefine the character of military affairs over the next decade. This transformation is a race fueled by the accelerating pace of commercial AI innovation coming out of America's private sector. Races have winners and losers. Who's in the race, Jeremy? Who is in the seat 2 of this race?
We talked about this a lot, Mark. Whenever something
Just say China. Just say China.
Right. Well, whenever something becomes a race, there's an urgency to it. And we forget about a lot of the rules and human necessities outside of that. So yes, we're in a race. The race is arguably against China. I think is it listed in this? Does it spell it out specifically in this? Of course, it's not actually
spelt out. No, it's not. So this war, this race for an AI-led military, how is America going to win this race? This memo outlines the strategy to win the race. The United States military must build on its lead, so it's already winning the race, over our adversaries in integrating this technology established during President Trump's first term to make our warfighters more lethal and efficient. To this end, aligned with America's AI action plan, I direct the Department of War to accelerate America's military AI dominance by becoming an AI-first war-fighting force across all components from front to back. The department will achieve this objective by... So yeah, the language is very aggressive. It's very attack, attack, attack. This is the art of war, 2026 style. Let's go through the strategy. So objectives. What are the objectives of this? Number 1, unleashing experimentation with America's leading AI models department-wide and rewarding AI-first reconceptions of legacy approaches. So reconceptions of legacy approaches, for me, that means rewriting the rule book, the rules of engagement, throwing out what existed before and redesigning that with AI in mind. How would it look?
Yeah, and there's certain approaches I think that could be reasonable in this. The safety of people involved, safety of the military, safety of the soldiers. You know, how could we improve that? That's kind of a good thing. The experimentation piece of this is pretty challenging, right? Because this is jet fuel. We don't even fully understand it. Like these AI models, we don't know how they produce what they produce, why they produce what they produce. We don't even know much about how they're trained as individuals.
How does hallucination play into the experimentation as well? If you're experimenting with life and death, I mean, it's all good and well having an hallucination at work, but having an hallucination on the battlefield, the consequences are life and death.
Yeah, and then incentives usually direct people to what you're asking them to achieve, right? And you're asking AI first approaches, even when AI first may not be the best approach. So unleashing, God, that's a strong damn word, right? Like the language in this is pretty big. And then this next one, aggressively identifying and eliminating bureaucratic barriers to deeper integration. So this is really interesting. This ties into some stuff that we talk about a lot. Think about democracy just in general. Gets inefficient for good reason. It takes a longer time to have things happen. And some bureaucratic barriers may need to be there, especially if there are decisions whether to pull the trigger and automate the pulling of the trigger for weapons, which I think we're largely referring to in this doc.
Yep. And you have vestiges of legacy information technology and modes of warfare. So they're talking about, again, out with the old, in with the new. And then focusing our investment to leverage America's core asymmetric advantages in AI computing, model innovation, entrepreneurial dynamism, capital markets, and combat proven operational data from 2 decades of military and intelligence operations that no other military can replicate. Okay, well, we have Anthropic, or we had Anthropic, we have OpenAI, we have Grok, we have Anduril, we have Palantir, we have the America's finest entrepreneurs on board.
Well, so remember Anthropic, just some history, guys. Anthropic, Dario Amodei, he left OpenAI because he largely disagreed with the safety protocols related to releasing products and things into the market. He started Anthropic to do it a little bit differently. And, currently in the news, they're suing the US government, I think, because they were put into a risk profile, or what was the official categorization, Mark? Do you have that handy? They're an official supply chain risk, I think, is what they were called.
Supply chain risk, yeah. Because they wanted to have a little bit of small print in their agreement whereby the tech couldn't be used for mass US surveillance and couldn't be used for full automation of the kill chain. They're not...
Probably not bad things to consider. Like, I mean, those seem pretty damn important. Those seem pretty damn important.
But it's a race, and we don't have time.
That's right. That's right. Let's continue.
So we're talking about race, we're talking about speed. So now the memorandum moves into the PSPs, the pace-setting projects that will demonstrate the accelerated pace of execution, focus, and ethos we need to stay ahead. The PSPs will also serve as tangible, outcome-orientated vehicles for rapidly completing our build-out of the foundational AI enablers, infrastructure, data, models, policies, and talent, which is an interesting one. So there's 7 PSPs. We start with, again, the race, the acceleration approach. So these are outlined: warfighting, intelligence, and enterprise. So we'll start with warfighting. More bellicose language, Jeremy. Swarmforge, competitive mechanism to iteratively discover, test, and scale novel ways of fighting with and against AI-enabled capabilities, combining America's elite warfighting units with elite technology innovators. Here again, we have big tech and big government and big bombs and big drones and big swarms of drones. This has been acted out in Iran as we speak, is it not?
That it is. That it is.
Agent network. We're going to unleash AI agent development and experimentation for AI-enabled battle management and decision support, from campaign planning to kill chain execution. So if I just want to read you something from the Project Maven Wikipedia page.
Is this the as of September 2025?
Yeah. As of September 2025, the director of the NGA claimed that by June 2026, Maven will begin to transmit 100% machine-generated intelligence to combatant commanders using LLM technology. That doesn't mean that they're doing that on the ground now in a live war scenario. It means that that is possible.
100% machine-generated intelligence. The key here, I think, is 100% machine-generated intelligence. What is the review process and protocol to take that through the human lens, or are we limiting that? So technology scales what we do, right? So do you have now one person managing, I don't know, 4 or 5 theaters per se, or areas of battle, and then they're relying on machine-generated intelligence to make decisions still? Or is this just going to automate? Is there going to be a handoff process? And if so, where is the handoff that this decision needs to be generated or reviewed by a human, this decision does not? I don't see any language in here that really talks much about that.
And who is the human if there is the human in the loop? Who
Correct.
decides who that human is? Well, from that language, it means I understand it as doesn't need, or there won't need to be a human in the loop. If there needs to be a human in the loop, that will be a decision made by the Department of War to keep a human in the loop, even though from a technological perspective, it might not be necessary.
So you mentioned Project Maven, Andrew Palmer Luckey, right? So Palmer Luckey was the guy that came up with Oculus, right? Was that his first
Yeah, he sold
piece?
it to Meta for
Sold
$1
it,
billion.
sold it to Meta. And whether this is marketing or whether this is from him pitching his product, what I hear is his idea is to like use all of this to avoid wars and conflicts kind of before they happen, whether I believe that or not. I don't know. I haven't researched it enough, but this memo doesn't talk about the avoidance of conflict. It talks about putting jet fuel on the ability to generate conflict.
Yep. So Ender's Foundry, I haven't read the book that this is related to. Accelerating AI-enabled simulation capabilities and sim dev and sim ops feedback loops to ensure we stay ahead of AI-enabled adversaries. There we are again. It's very opaque. I looked up what the book The Ender's Game is, but it's about a child unknowingly fighting a real war through what he thinks is a simulation, and it turns out it isn't a simulation. If you've read that, anybody, please let us know.
I'm not sure that's a reference I want to see happening in an official strategy document for I'm going to still call it the Department of Defense. I don't think
I'll call it the Department of War. Intelligence, open arsenal, accelerating the tech turning intel into weapons in hours, not years. Turning intel into weapons in hours, not years. You have your Area 53 modern warfare equivalent. You find this strange foreign Chinese technology on the warfield in the straits of wherever you might find it. AI analyzes it, determines what it can and can't do, suck it into the AI machine and use it. And you can do that in a day, not in years, which would take now.
Sometimes days are good. Sometimes having more days are good. I don't know that we need to have something turn intel into a weapon in an hour. We're already as humans kind of limited in our ability to make great decisions on behalf of the greater good. I think it's kind of like that idea when you get really pissed off, Mark, and your limbic brain is activated and you get into this tornado of just like, whoa, and you're chasing down this mad. What do good people tell you to do? Take a breath, take a walk, step away from stuff for a minute. We need to be able to step away from shit for a minute before we turn it into something unstoppable.
Turn it into a weapon. Yeah, dude, you're right. There does seem to be everything in this is written with the optimistic hope that everything is correct. Although that's not actually true, is it? Because later on, we should probably get to that. They say that we'll make some mistakes, but collateral damage is part of war and speed is more important than errors. So at least they say there's no breathing space and that might cause some problems. But what the hell? What the hellfire?
Well, speaking of that too, just jumping down real quick, wartime approach to blockers. I think this is listed down here somewhere. And there is something called an ATO, an authorization to operate. This kind of helps remove some of these blockers. And this is specific to data sharing. So this talks about what Amadai probably highlighted and said, hey, there's a lot of access to a lot of data. That could be used to create a surveillance state. I don't want to be a part of it. Here's a blocker here's a block remover that is put into this document saying, hey, we could just use this vehicle to do whatever we want to do because it's a race, because we have to win. And listen, man, I'm not downplaying national defense. Like, I'm not downplaying this stuff. That stuff's important, but man, this is moving it quickly and maybe like recklessly, maybe a bit recklessly.
I don't think there's any maybe about it. If you read, so, okay, the middle part of the document, we talk about enterprise. They talk about creating a website where all military personnel can access these models and practice and train and do what they want. Enterprise agents, they call them. But then it gets to AI compute, data access. Okay, so all of the departments have to establish, maintain, and update federated data catalogs exposing their systems, interfaces, data assets, and access mechanisms across all classification levels as mandated by the department's 2021 memorandum creating data advantage. They have 30 days to do that from the date of this memorandum, so that deadline's passed. They talk about
so first of all, technologically, that is a very difficult thing to do from a data storage perspective, from a permissions, from an access, from a data hierarchy, like everything involved in that.
How do you know if they've got OpenAI on board?
No, but you still have to you still have to look at your your storage architecture. And I'm not a storage architect. I'm not a data architect. I've been around a bunch of them. I've sat in meetings planning data center programs with them at the table, teaching me, helping me understand their piece of the puzzle of that. And if we had one on today and we said, hey, you have to look across your organization, re-architect everything in 30 days to support this memorandum, they would say no way. And if we did, it would create tremendous amount of risk. So the accelerated drive for this, again, we talk about, potentially reckless.
How much data is that? How many quadrillion terabytes of data is that? All of that information, it's mind blowing.
Well, but also how much of that data should they have access to?
Well,
should all of these departments have access to? Smelling a little surveillance-y, Mark. Smelling a little surveillance-y.
Well, before we get into the mad rush, we have the talent, which I think is big tech in bed with big AI. There's a line in here, which I want to read out. I believe the best American talent will see this accelerated posture of AI capability development adoption at the DOW, and I expect each service and component to attract and retain this talent. To that end, I direct use of special hiring and pay authorities department-wide, as well as novel talent programs from the Office of Personnel and Management and other partners to accelerate our pace of technical talent hiring into AI roles. Considering Facebook is paying $200 million for the best talent, how much? Because I don't know what the going rate is for an engineer at the DOW, but are they going to times 1,000 that? Are they going to start paying the talent millions per year to get them on board? Is that what this means? Or are they willing to settle for the second best talent or the third best talent? Because the best talent, except for the warmongers, is going to Silicon Valley. So how do they? What does this mean?
Yeah, I mean, the statement tells us that they're committing to investing heavily in resources to hire really smart people. So that's all I really gather out of that.
Okay. You'll like this language, Jeremy. We're on to acceleration expectations. This strategy will accelerate our advantage, and we must implement it with the warrior ethos. As a non-American, Jeremy, could you explain to me the warrior ethos?
I have no idea what that means, dude. I really don't, and it's capitalized. So maybe potentially within the branches of the military, maybe that's terminology within the Army or within the Navy or something that we don't have privy to. But I don't know, statements about technology and aligning with warrior ethos,
Okay, let's get on to the two most important paragraphs in this memo for me: speed wins and the AI model parity. Speed wins. We must internalize that military AI is going to be a race for the foreseeable future, and therefore speed wins. We must weaponize learning speed and measure and manage cycle time and adoption rates as decisive variables in the AI era. We must accept that the risks of not moving fast enough outweigh the risks of imperfect alignment. There it is.
That's the one line in this whole document that should give us all pause. We must accept the risks of not moving fast enough outweigh the risks of imperfect alignment. So imperfect alignment is probably the least aggressive language in this, probably on purpose. Imperfect alignment. You know what that could potentially mean? People dying because we use something that hasn't been properly vetted, properly safety tested, properly incorporated into a true understanding of what AI is capable of and where the limitations lie. This is the Silicon Valley philosophy of move fast and break shit. But this is like, I'm going to call it again, the Department of Defense. We shouldn't move fast and break shit in all cases.
Yeah, break shit takes on a new meaning here. The memo goes on for another page. Some of the headers below: wartime approach to blockers, competition, centralized planning, AI native war fighting, modular open architectures, and the final one: clarifying responsible AI at the Department of War, out with utopian idealism, in with hard-nosed realism.
I'm going to echo just something right out of that section. Out with utopian idealism, in with hard-nosed realism. The department must also utilize models free from usage policy constraints that may limit lawful military actions. So essentially, anyone who doesn't play with the vision in this document is going to be called a supply chain risk, just like Anthropic.
And we say this from the comfort of our podcast studio. We are not in anywhere remotely dangerous. We're not on the war front. We're not in Iran. We're not military personnel. But I will end the show with the same question I started it with. Does AI make war more likely or less likely?
We'll leave that for you to think about and read about.
Until next time, be disruptive, stay curious.
Keep thinking on paper.